Congalala and Blangonga are among the first fanged beasts introduced in the Monster Hunter series, and some of the first ever monkey-styled monsters. Congalala lives in jungles and has pink fur, combed hair, and a hippopotamus-like face. Meanwhile, Blangonga lives in the cold, with snow-white fur and a purple face with red fangs. Congalala attacks in many different ways. He can charge forward and swipe his claws, either once or up to 4 times at once in a rapid set. This ends with him losing balance and falling belly up on his back, resting for a while. While this does leave him vulnerable, the landing causes tremors, so even though it provides a window of opportunity, you can't be too eager. Congalala will sometimes enlarge his belly, knocking you back. It hardens up like this, and thus serves as a temporary shield. He can also jump forward for a body slam, which again causes tremors. Let's address the elephant in the room. Congalala farts. A lot. They come from his behind and launch out as a visible brown cloud. Getting hit will afflict you with a stench debuff, which prevents you from consuming items except for deodorant, which cures the status. Congalala can also burp out this nasty gas as a beam projectile in front of him. His tail acts as a limb, allowing him to carry items like mushrooms, but also literally pull dung from his butt to toss at you. It's disgusting. When enraged, Congalala's nose and butt cheeks will glow red, and the speed of his attacks will increase. Emerald Congalala was introduced as a G-rank only subspecies in Freedom Unite. His main differences are that he tends to randomly fart after different attacks, such as his belly inflation, quadruple swipe, or body slam, which makes capitalizing on those damage windows a fair bit trickier. Emerald will also actively fart while caught in a pitfall trap, making it harder to attack him while he's caught in one. He can throw 3 balls of dung and perform a larger, more explosive fart after clapping his hands. Both of them have a very special mechanic. I mentioned earlier how the standard one can carry a mushroom on his tail. This is also true for Emerald, and after performing a special roar, they can eat them mid-battle. Depending on the mushroom, they can switch out their stench breath for sleep, poison, or paralysis, making them very adaptable. They will either eat the mushroom on their tail or seek out one from a gathering spot nearby. In terms of fighting style, Blangonga is similar but not quite. Like Congalala, he can charge forwards and swipe his arms, but many of his attacks demonstrate superior physical strength, such as his giant arm slam, or when he leaps forward while punching and landing into a roll. Blangonga can also dig underground and ambush you from below. Blangonga can roar in order to summon Blangos that help him out. They can spit frozen ice chunks, punch, or charge at you. Breaking Blangonga's fangs completely eliminates his command of them, as they'll no longer respect his authority. He can deploy icy breath that turns you into a snowman, and dig up a snowball from the ground that lands somewhere in front of him, splitting into 4 to maximise coverage. Additionally, he leaps around a fair bit, forwards, sideways and backwards, and these are attacks too. Blangonga is said to be rather smart. In the introduction cutscene for Monster Hunter DOS, he's seen visibly gripping a hunter's greatsword and stopping a strike with his hand. While he doesn't do this in-game, he does have the ability to understand when he's been paintballed and wash them off mid-battle, complicating your tracking if you don't notice and throw another. Copper Blangonga was added with Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. He's the very first subspecies to be based in an entirely different region, in this case, the deserts. Copper is dark orange and cream, and no longer has his snow-throwing abilities, or any smaller Blangos to call upon. Instead, he's extremely adept at digging, jumping, and throwing rocks. When Copper digs up a rock, it flies straight ahead and bounces along the ground. Unlike the Arctic Blangonga, where it goes up in an arc, Copper can also do an alternate version, where 4 smaller rocks are dug up at once and fork out. Additionally, he can perform an even higher version of this attack, where he first digs into the ground and then emerges with a jump, tossing a rock down from above that is not only rather accurate, but splits into chunks, requiring you to move diagonally. Like Blangonga, Copper has a breath attack, but this one merely stuns you. Both Congalalas returned in Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, while Blangonga was totally absent. This game more or less keeps their attacks from prior games. However, the mushroom mechanic is slightly altered. Both Congalalas are much more liberal with their breath attacks and mushroom consumptions, and so they'll buff more frequently. They'll also perform a small burp to indicate when their mushroom buff has ended. They are no longer able to consume mushrooms that grant sleep status breath. To compensate, however, they can now consume nitro shrooms, which not only grant them fiery breath, but also blast dust farts, which inflict you with blast light. In G-rank, they both gain some canopy interactions. They'll monkey swing a distance while rapidly farting. If you're above the canopy, they can stick their butt above and fart on you. G-rank Emerald Congalala also gains the ability to hold a chunk of dung on his tail, which can enhance his throws. Monster Hunter 4 features a collaboration quest with the Super Mario Bros. Series. You are required to hunt 2 Congalalas in the arena. They're both tiny and have mysterious red mushrooms with white spots. And sometime into the fight, Congalala returns to Generations Ultimate with minimal if any changes, but interestingly, Blangonga was brought back into the base game and he has some minor changes. He's slightly more mobile than before and can perform different digging ambushes that have him leap out of the ground and rush forwards, and he'll double up his tumble attack when enraged. Congalala returned to Wilds after skipping the entire 5th generation of Monster Hunter. He's much more fluffy than before and retains all the attacks of his standard self with the exception of the canopy swing and any Emerald exclusive attacks. There are also next to no tremors on his physical attacks, and he can now do this weird tackle. Wilds once more changes how Congalala interacts with mushrooms. He's even more eager to munch them up and will now dig to scoop them out if there are none available nearby. Moreover, each mushroom breath ability now functions differently. His stench breath is still a beam that weaves from side to side, but now his poison is a brief close range attack in the middle of a combo. His paralysis spreads out as a cloud in front of him, and he now has blast breath that manifests as a row of explosions. He can also have multiple of these mushroom buffs active at once, allowing him to mix them up. Tempered Congalala will actually start off with every buff available without having to eat a mushroom. Like Emerald back in the day, he will fart in pitfall traps. Meanwhile, in the Iceshard cliffs, Blangonga is here again, sporting a much fluffier and muscular look. The snowman status has been gone for some time, so when Blangonga hits you with his new breath attack that sweeps left to right, it will freeze you to the ground, although he does still have the old one. Digging up a snowball will no longer have a split or core snowman. Some of his physical attacks have been changed. His arm slam now has much more wind up. When leaping backwards, his back legs will kick, making this look like more of an attack. Blangonga can punch as he moves left or right. He can also do a new strong attack, where he jumps and then rapidly spins. I think Congalala is a really interesting monster. He was actually going to be the topic of an episode of a different series I made before he was confirmed to Wilds. Then I thought it would be better to wait. The reason I wanted to discuss him there was because I was trying to mix up the series from multiple different gens, but also because I believe there's a few things he does very well. The first is that he juxtaposes Rajang quite nicely, with his attacks being fairly less serious and more free than the Golden Lion. The swiping attack is a great example, with Congalala barely being able to control his weight before he lands belly up on the ground, taking a moment to recover. Rajang performs a similar attack that's completely no nonsense, ends very deliberately and with a tremor to boot. It makes Congalala a very fun preview of what's to come. The second thing is the mushroom statuses. That's such a fun mechanic, being able to use poison, paralysis, stench or blast. It gives him a lot of variety, and it's nice to see a monster interacting with the environment the way we do, the way he forages for mushrooms. Emerald Congalala is one of the subspecies that doesn't really do a whole lot differently, aside from being harder. I think for that reason he would be very welcome in Wilds. I love what they did for Congalala there, with the status attacks, the way they all act so differently from each other. But he lost a lot of his bite in the transition to new gen. For example, he doesn't really have the tremors anymore, which I felt was a pretty important aspect of the original fight, and probably a lot of people's introduction to the mechanic. In this game you can just stand to the side of most of his attacks and be unaffected. It makes him very unthreatening. Maybe that's the goal here, but I liked how Congalala's silliness gave way to a fair amount of danger. Hippopotamuses are no joke after all. So back to Emerald, I think that's a good opportunity to bring back Wilds Congalala's bite. Give him some tremors, a few new attacks, maybe change around the shapes of his status attacks, make him really threatening. I don't get the point of Blangonga. Maybe my biases are at play here because he wasn't in the first game I played. But to me, he's a marginally harder Congalala without anything that made the pink fur beast interesting, nor does he really have anything good of his own. I don't find his attacks threatening or distinct. The Blangos don't add a whole lot either. He's rather forgettable outside of his design, which I do think looks quite cool. To me, if Congalala is easy and Rajang is hard, Blangonga's role would be to sit on the medium of that spectrum, and under that context he serves his role well. He lacks Congalala's goofiness without being as terrifyingly competent as Rajang, but he doesn't really have anything to set him apart, and I don't really know what they could give him. I've heard he's supposed to be very smart, like we have that scene in DOS, him washing the paintball off in 2nd gen, and then in Wilds he actually has a power clash where he'll grab your weapon and hold it. But I wish there were more ways for him to demonstrate this supposed intelligence, especially because Rajang isn't in Wilds. So here, Blangonga is supposed to be the hard monkey, but it doesn't really land, even with the 9-star version. I'm not sure how they could demonstrate his intelligence, but honestly, If they found a way to make it his whole thing, it would probably solve my issues with him. Like, let's say he could disarm you for a little while, or be immune to traps, or figure out ways to negate status ailments. If strategies that worked on other monsters somehow didn't work on him, that would be a lot cooler than just a weaker Snow Rajang. I think they will bring back Copper Blangonga for the Wilds expansion. It just seems far too perfect to put him in the Windward Plains. His status as the very first modern subspecies is actually something I've been meaning to explore in a different video, because it is kind of mad that Blangonga of all monsters was the first to get a biome swapped subspecies with an actual different fighting style. That's more or less what acidic lavinus is, for instance. I'd love to see what a faster copper with a revitalised ability to dig and toss sand could be capable of. Initially, Congalala and Blangonga's evolutions were supposed to be 2 different videos, but I combined them into one because it just makes more sense. For the sake of length, but also being able to compare the 2 monkeys that both originated in the same game and were recently remade. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to support me further, please donate to me on Patreon. Benefits include getting credited at the end of every major video, getting access to videos early, and getting an exclusive monthly video where I ramble about various different topics. What are your thoughts on the 2 monkeys? Which do you prefer? Do any of you see the appeal behind Blangonga? Because if you do, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe, and have a good day.